The World Health Organization defines burnout as a syndrome resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. Now, I find that interesting because I believe that a workplace itself cannot cause stress. It's just a building, it's just an area. So why is work, a family, a classroom, a shift stressful? Well, it's because of the people that are at the workplace, and it's because of events that happen at the workplace. Today, we are talking about conflict, which happens everywhere, especially in the workplace, and we're going to talk about how to combat that through resolving conflict. Welcome to Burnout Solutions, a podcast designed to help high achievers and healthcare professionals understand stress and how it can lead to burnout. Together, we'll explore how your brain and nervous system naturally work and why they sometimes hold you back, and how to overcome those challenges to fully enjoy the success you've worked so hard to create. I am your host, Mona Tippett, registered nurse, burnout coach, and resiliency educator. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here today. Today, we are talking about a topic that has been on my mind a lot. And I wanted to just start out with a question. Have you ever noticed how exhausting conflict can be? I've thought a lot about this just with recent events in the news and with helping my clients with their workplace and with parents, and in my own life with the people in my inner circle and people that I interact with. And I've just thought a lot about how exhausting conflict really is. And it's not just these big blowups. I think those definitely add stress and lead to burnout, but I think maybe even more are the little tensions. So when you walk away from a conversation and it's replaying in your head, and you're justifying yourself, or you're saying, I should have said this, I should have done this. Or maybe you're feeling like you weren't seen, or you weren't understood, or you didn't see or understand other people like maybe they wanted to. And there's just this conflict. And conflict usually is approached through two different ways. One is aggression, fighting, bringing it up, my way or the highway type of approach, or avoidance. And let's not argue. Let's not talk about things that bring up contention. Let's avoid everything that has to do with friction because it's annoying and it makes us all feel bad. So let's just not talk about anything. Now, I don't think avoidance or aggression are the best way to handle conflict. And usually when we're in that state, we are on the sympathetic nervous system side of the Yerkes-Dodson law, and we are reactive instead of responding. And we don't want to be that way. So we want to be able to handle conflict in an appropriate way that doesn't leave us emotionally stressed out or burned out. And I really do feel like the constant emotional friction of relationships, of interacting with other humans, can be one of the biggest drains on our energy and really can put us on a fast track that leads us to burnout. So today, what I really wanted to talk about was how we can change the way that we see others. And I have another podcast that I've talked about this a little bit. Relationships really do matter. And resolving conflict is a huge part of having a good relationship. So if we can change the way that we see other people, we can reduce our conflict. We can reduce the amount of stress that we have in our lives. And we can reduce burnout in our relationships and burnout in our lives. And that's what this podcast is all about. So today I am pulling from a book that I just read. It's called The Anatomy of Peace by the Arbinger Institute. And I learned a lot about the concepts in this book at a PTA convention that I went to in April or May. I don't know. It's been a few months and I've thought a lot about it. And anyway, it's just a great book. This book has been around for years. And the wisdom in it has changed homes and workplaces and even communities. And the lessons line up perfectly with what we know about the brain and nervous system. So, and because I just read it again, I was like, this is definitely podcast worthy. So let's start with, why is conflict so draining? And I want you to think about the last time you had a disagreement at work, or maybe with your spouse, or with your teenager, or your toddler, or your neighbor, or your mother in law, or, anyone, your student, your coworker. And I want you to just think about, how did your body feel? And again, this is a skill that we need to learn. We have never been taught to pay attention to how our body feels, but we need to become more aware. How did that disagreement leave you feeling? How did that conflict feel in your body? Most of us feel tension. We have a tight jaw, we have a furrowed brow, we have tight shoulders, shallow breath, maybe even a racing heart. And that is your nervous system working perfectly, moving you into defense mode. And when you are in defense mode, especially day after day, it compounds into more stress. It creates anxiety and eventually leads us to burnout. And conflict isn't just about the fight itself. It's often even more about carrying that tension long after the conversation is over, long after you're separated from yourself, or when two people come together, that tension and that same topic just comes back up. And it's a repeating cycle. And what does it do? Well, it eats up our mental bandwidth, it eats up our emotional energy and our physical and emotional resilience. It wears down our body because of the stress that it puts on us. And here's the kicker: most of this conflict that we experience isn't because of what the other person is doing, it's because of how we are seeing them and because of how we are seeing ourselves. So, in the book, the Arbinger Institute describes two very different ways that we can see people. And the first is with a heart at war. So, this is our heart is at war, and we can see people as objects. So, they're obstacles, they're in our way, they're tools to get what we want, or they're maybe just irrelevant. And I wanted to give a few examples of that. So, when you have a heart at war, maybe at work, you see a coworker who misses a deadline or doesn't take care of their patients or isn't doing a good job. Good job is in air quotes. You see them as lazy, they're incompetent, rather than someone who might be overwhelmed or struggling. So you treat them like an obstacle to your success or somebody you have to deal with, and not as a person with their own challenges. Maybe at home, for a parent, your teenager snaps at you and you immediately label them as disrespectful or ungrateful. Instead of seeing their stress, confusion, or pain, you see them as a problem to fix or a person to control. I have been there for sure. In traffic, maybe somebody cuts you off and you think, man, what a jerk. People shouldn't even be driving that way. They're not paying attention. And the other driver becomes your enemy in that story, not just a fellow human being who maybe just made a mistake or is in a rush or is just not paying attention. A heart at war in a relationship could look like you are examining your partner and seeing only what they're not doing right. They're not listening. They're not helping enough. They're not doing this. They are not affectionate enough, whatever. They become an object of blame rather than a person that you love who may also have needs, stress, and limits. So to wrap up, when we see people as objects or have a heart at war, we see other people as obstacles, like you're in my way, you are making my life harder, or as a vehicle. You exist to help me get what I want. You exist to help me accomplish what I need to. And if you don't, then you're useless to me. Or as irrelevancies. You don't matter. I don't need to notice you or care about you. And there is so much of this just recently in the news and comments on Facebook and just things that people have said that I've heard. I'm like, wow, we really do often see people as objects. And I want you to know that our behavior can be the same, but it's what we are thinking and what we are feeling inside that really does make a difference. That really changes a heart at war or a heart at peace. So in contrast, let's talk about a heart at peace. At work, you might say, oh, wow, my coworker missed something, or they're not taking care of their patient like I thought. I've really looked up to this coworker as a teacher I can admire or a parent I can admire, and something just isn't adding up. I wonder what's going on for them. Maybe I can check in. when you're at home parenting and your teenager has a freak out. Wow, my teen seems grumpier than normal. They must be carrying something heavy, or maybe they're stressed out, or maybe they're having their own friend conflict. How can I be steady for them? How can I show up as a person that I want to be? A heart at peace could approach a driver that was reckless and cut them off and just think, wow, they must be distracted or in a hurry. I've done that before. Just like me, they must be having a hard day. Just like I've had before, they might be having a hard day right now. And in your relationships, you can think, my partner seems distant. That's strange that they're not helping out like they used to. Or I wonder what's going on for them today, right now. I wonder what they're feeling. I wonder what they're needing right now. So when we can humanize and empathize with other people, we have a heart at peace. A heart at war dehumanizes other people. It makes them as objects that we can use at our disposal. It turns them into people. It turns them into inanimate objects and things to help us get gain. And depending on how we see other people, you will notice that the situation didn't change. The circumstance didn't change, but my level of stress significantly changed just by how I saw them differently. And this is where it connects with our nervous system. A heart at war pushes you into a fight or flight, into sympathetic dominance, into aggression or avoidance. But a heart at peace lets our parasympathetic nervous system come online, bringing calm, bringing connection, bringing understanding, and with us being guided by our core values and showing up the best that we want to. So conflict often depletes us where peace can restore us. Now, here's where things get really interesting. And what I have come to discover about myself and what I have come to help my clients see is that often we get into a heart of war because of self-betrayal. And self-betrayal or breaches of integrity or acting in ways that we don't want to happens because we act in ways that we know is not right. We act in ways that we don't want to be acting. Imagine you see a coworker struggling and you feel a nudge to help, but instead you ignore them. You walk by. In that moment, you betrayed yourself because you really do want to be an empathetic, kind person, but you didn't. You're just like, ugh, and move on because maybe you don't have time. Maybe you have your own worries and struggles. And that's often what it is we are battling our own battles inside that we aren't showing other people, but that puts us in a place of reactivity instead of responding. And so we betray ourselves in how we act. But often after we act that way, we start to justify and say, I'm too busy. They probably don't want help. They probably don't want me to be nosy. They probably don't want anyone to see that they're struggling. Or we might rationalize or judge again and say, honestly, they never prepare anyway. It's their own fault that they're like this. They've made choices that have led them to this situation, whatever. And so that justification, those thoughts and actions that we do is what the Arbinger Institute calls a box. So imagine a box and then, you made it into 4 squares inside the box. We're going to talk about all of them. The first is the better than box. The second is the worse than box. The third is the I deserve box. And the fourth is must be seen as box. And I want you to see if you've put yourself in any of these boxes. Let's start with the better than box. It is, I am smarter. I'm harder working. I've got myself here. I'm more dedicated than they are. I put in the work and other people didn't. This is where a lot of high achievers fit in. I spent the time. I lost the sleep. I just worked so hard to get to where I am. Okay, the next is the worse than box, where people say, I'll never measure up. I'm not enough. There's nothing I can do. This is just how we always are. Other people are luckier. Other people have a charmed life. other people are more blessed than I am, et cetera, et cetera. This is nobody likes me, everybody hates me, I'm going to eat some worms type of box. Okay, the next box is the I deserve box, which is super interesting. It goes hand in hand with the better than box, but it's different. The I deserve box is I've worked hard. I shouldn't have to deal with this. I deserve to have my children obey me. I deserve to have my children eat the dinner that I made. I deserve to have my patients thank me. I deserve to have my students score well on the test because I taught them this. I deserve to be said hello to by my neighbors because I'm a good neighbor. It's where we feel entitled to something and we expect other people to behave in a way that reflects that entitlement. It's super fascinating, this I deserve box. Okay, the next box is the must be seen as box. And this is where we need other people to think I'm a competent person, to think I'm kind, to think I'm perfect, to think I have it all together. I don't want people to see my flaws. I don't want people to see that I struggle. I want people to know me as the Energizer Bunny or the one who's always empathetic or the one who always steps in. I am the one that everybody comes to solve the problem. I must be seen as a strong one. And we need validation from other people in a certain way. Okay, so the problem is once we are in this box, in any of those four corners, we distort reality to justify staying in those boxes. It's super fascinating. And the more that we live in those boxes, the more our hearts stay at war. And the more we have a heart at war, the more conflict we have, the more stress we see. And we carry that throughout our days. We carry that with us into our relationships. We carry that with us at our workplace. And I just think, again, that it's super fascinating that we can get burned out and stressed out. And I think of, the definition of burnout is often blamed on the workplace. And a workplace itself cannot cause burnout. The human beings in the workplace interacting with each other, having conflict with each other, can. I want to make that distinction, and I want to help you know that this is why I'm so passionate about solving stress and burnout, is because of human conflict, because of this human dysregulation, because all of that adds up and it burns us out. Okay, so let's move on. Here's where it gets even more interesting. When we are inside any of these boxes, we almost invite that other person to act in a certain way to confirm our distorted view. And they call this collusion. So think of this. Say you're at work and a manager just thinks an employee is lazy or they always come in late or they fall behind. So what does that manager do? Well, that manager starts to micromanage the employee and calls them and says, hey, you need to come in. Hey, are you doing this? Here, I'm going to give you a list of all these things that you need to do, and tries to micromanage that employee. So what does that employee do? Well, that employee feels distrusted, so they engage even more. And while I'm talking about this, I want you to think of any relationships that you're in, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a healthcare professional, a neighbor, in the service industry, and how we don't like to be micromanaged and how we like to have autonomy, and how when we are micromanaged, when we do feel distrusted, we start to engage. So back to the story. So the manager micromanages and the employee feels even more distrust. And so they engage even more. And the more they engage, the more the manager micromanages. And this goes into a cycle around and around and around. And this is what collusion is. It's exhausting. It puts people into dysregulation. And both people walked away drained. Both people walked away burnt out. And this is what breeds resentment. This is what puts our brain into a spiral of anxiety and rumination. And this is really this conflict cycle that we get stuck in, where I act one way and my behavior influences them and their behavior starts to change. So what's interesting is both of us in this cycle are not being true to ourselves. Both of us in this area are self-betraying. Both of us are seeing the other person in maybe one of the boxes, that they are smarter, that they are harder working. Maybe the employee feels, I'll never measure up. I'm not enough. The manager feels, I've worked so hard. I've dealt with these employees all the time, and I shouldn't have to deal with people who are lazy and who need micromanaging. I want people to see that I'm competent and confident and doing a good job, and these employees are not making me do that. Okay, I hope you can see that. And this goes the same with, again, with parents. I want my kids to do well in school so that they can continue our family legacy. I want them to understand education. I want them to perform well on the soccer field or the football field. And a lot of this box is I want other people to make me look good, which is impossible. Sorry to tell you, but we can only control ourselves. And when we are stuck in this conflict cycle, when we are stuck in this collusion, when our behavior changes other people's behavior, which is very normal because as humans, we have mirror neurons, we get stuck in this. So let's talk about the way out. So what is the way out? Well, guess what? It is not at all about fixing the other person. It is about shifting how we see them. Isn't that fascinating? Work on ourselves, shift how we see other people. So when we want to get out of the box, it means that we recognize that we have started to objectify other people. It means we have started to look at them as somebody that needs managing or somebody that needs guidance or somebody that I need to heal or fix or teach or help them, pass a test. And these all start with a good core value. I mean, I get a lot of fulfillment in helping people, but I need to let go of that entitlement that people need to get better or perform or do or be to fill that fulfilling need. This is about seeing other people as humans again. And again, I think about all of the recent social media and events in the news where there's, right-winged and left-winged, and we forget that we're all humans with desires and experiences and past that influence how we see the world and influences our perception. So this brings me to the influence pyramid that they talk about in the book, which is the roadmap for creating change. And you can draw this if you want to. And they did point out in the book that the influence pyramid is often inverted and we do it wrong. So you can draw a triangle, and at the bottom level, it is get out of the box, and that is the base. So again, we're getting out of the better than box, the worse than box, the I deserve box, and I must be seen as box. So that is the first thing to do, is to work on ourselves. The second level is to build relationships. And this is build relationships with those in our immediate circle, build a relationship with yourself, build a relationship with those closest to you that you work with. The third is listen and learn about other people's needs. So build a relationship with the outer circle of your inner circle, with your teenagers' friends and their family, with your neighbors and their friends and their family, with all of your coworkers, and get to know their spouses and their families. And just listening and learning about these other people's inner circles and outer circles can help us understand them better. The fourth level is to communicate our needs and to teach. And then finally, correct if necessary, which I find is super interesting. And they say this, that the pyramid is often inverted and we like to correct other people. We like to correct how they drive. We like to correct the things that they say on social media. We like to correct our students and how they're reciprocating the knowledge that we taught them. And when we correct first, we usually jump straight into fixing people, but that rarely works because the true influence starts with seeing, listening, and connecting with other people, which is really what we want to do. We want to help other people. It's just our approach that is off. But here is a beautiful thing. When we can shift into a heart at peace, and we're just not reducing conflict externally when we try and calm down our own nervous system, when we focus on our own core values, when we focus on who do I want to be right now, we are creating conditions where stress decreases, where conflict decreases, where burnout is less likely because we're not burning energy. We're not spending our brain juice on constant battles that we cannot solve. And again, we're focusing on ourselves, which is what I help people understand all the time. You can control yourself. So I'm just going to give you a few questions that you can ask yourself in moments of tension, moments of helping you see people a little bit differently, trying to understand them a little bit differently. You can think, what is this person worried about? What are they hoping for? What are they struggling with? What burdens might they be carrying? Have I done anything to contribute to this situation that's making them act the way that they're acting? And then maybe what is one action that I can take that shows that I see them as a person with their own needs, with their own perspective, with their own intuition, and how can I take that into consideration? You can even pair these questions with your nervous system practices that I've taught before. Pause, take a slow, deep breath, orient yourself to your environment, calm down, you become regulated, and then you can come back to the interaction with a softer lens. You can come back with more understanding and show up in a more empathetic way. Because remember, co-regulation is huge. And when we show up regulated, we can help change the environment for the better wherever we go. Okay, so let's just wrap up. Here's a takeaway. Burnout, again, isn't just about too much work. It often isn't about that, but it's often about too much conflict, too much stress, too much living in the box, too much of this angst that is carried in our hearts, too much of it that's carried in our bodies and in our nervous system. We're not completing the stress cycle. We're not seeing other people like they deserve to be seen because we want that for ourselves, right? We all want to be seen as a human who makes mistakes. We're not superhuman. We're just trying to do our best. And we really do have these core values that drive us. And when we can shift from a heart at war to a heart at peace, we are not only reducing conflict in our workplace, in our homes, and most importantly, in our relationships, in our very intimate relationships. We can give ourselves the gift of more energy, more peace, less stress, more resilience. We can handle things better. We are more empathetic. We are more compassionate. We understand other people. We are not expecting them to be superhumans. We see them as humans with faults and needs and fears. And that's what we all are, right? We're just humans trying to get through this life the best that we can. So this week, the challenge today is to pick one relationship. Doesn't matter what. Work, home, with the stranger in the grocery store who cut you off. And just practice seeing them as a person who's trying to do their best, but just like me, doesn't always match up. I want you to see and notice how that stress changes in your body. I want you to see if that changes your perception of them. I want you to see if that helps you show up a little bit better and more in alignment with your core values. And let me know. I think that would be a super interesting experiment to do this week. And lastly, if this episode had resonated with you, if you learned something, if you shared it with somebody, I always love to hear stories. And you can email me. You can find me in my show notes. I love sharing these on social media, anonymously, or in a future episode. So thank you for being here today. And remember that peace does not start when other people change, but when we change ourselves and when we can see them differently. So until next time, just take care of yourselves and your nervous system and each other. Every week,